Welcome back to the Arkham Marathon, ladies and gentlemen. In the last video, we saw how Rocksteady Studios created what is said to be one of the best superhero games of all time, Batman Arkham Asylum. To everyone's surprise, this game became a ginormous hit, with the game winning several awards and critical praise. But before Arkham Asylum was even finished, Rocksteady was already thinking of ideas for a sequel. In fact, you can find an Easter egg in the Warden's office containing blueprints for Arkham City. The game was originally going to take place in Gotham, but Rocksteady were unsure about the technical limitations they had. There was a trailer for a sequel only a few months after Arkham Asylum's release. Call it clever or cocky, the guys at Rocksteady seemed pretty confident about their next project. They were so confident that in 2011, after only 2 years of development time, gamers received the highly anticipated sequel to Arkham Asylum, Batman Arkham City. The version I'm playing off of is the Game of the Year edition, which has the game and all of its downloadable content, and is the version I'd highly recommend buying. Alrighty then, so does Arkham City expand upon Asylum in every way possible? Or should the 2-year development time be a worry of the game turning out immensely flawed? Let's take a look. As for the story, we once again have Paul Dini as the writer, so if you liked Arkham Asylum's narrative, you'll most likely enjoy Arkham City's. Arkham City is based on the long-running comic book series that takes place before the game's main storyline and after Arkham Asylum's. I haven't read these yet, so I couldn't tell you what happens there, but in the end, I don't really think it matters. 18 months after the events of Arkham Asylum, Gotham City has built a brand new super prison to put their criminals in called Arkham City, and Bruce Wayne is at the entrance holding a press conference to tear it down. Not sure why he thinks holding a conference outside the walls of Arkham City would be a good idea, but it's too late for him now as Tiger Guards arrest Bruce and put him inside. The Tiger Guards have taken us to the big cheese of Arkham City, which turns out to be Hugo Strange, thanks to a bribed Quincy Sharp who's now become mayor of Gotham City. And what's worse is that Strange knows that Bruce Wayne is indeed the Dark Knight and releases him into Arkham City. Not to worry though, because he doesn't do a goddamn thing with that secret. You would think he would do so before releasing him into Arkham City, you know, so the criminals can gang up on him. But nope, Strange decides to keep his secret and not do anything with it throughout the rest of the game. So it's kind of a redundant plot point, if you ask me. Anyway, Strange mentions about preparing to commence something called Protocol 10 in 10 in-game hours, and after he leaves we eventually meet up with a Penguin, who gets his men to start a fight with Bruce, but manages to break his cuffs while in battle and gets on the rooftops of Arkham City to equip his Batsuit thanks to an airdrop from Alfred. Once he's done that, he goes off to save Catwoman from Two-Face before an attempted assassination is done on her by the Joker. Batman goes to confront him to see if he knows anything about Protocol 10, but ends up getting captured and feasts his eyes on a very unhealthy Joker, with Harley Quinn trying her best to keep him stable, and neither of them knowing anything about Protocol 10. Through the Joker's character biography, we're made clear that the properties in the Titan formula he injected in the last game are mutating in his blood and slowly killing him. The other victims injected with Titan? Oh, they're completely fine. Joker was just unlucky enough to bet on black is all. He also reveals that he's performed a blood transfusion on Batman, infecting him with the same disease, and that he sent his blood to hospitals all over Gotham. Getting him stuck in the same situation, the Joker tells Batman that he had Mr. Freeze develop a cure for him, but has since been captured by the Penguin. So the aim of the game is to rescue Mr. Freeze, create the cure, stop any villains that get in your way, and make Batman and the Joker healthy again. Batman Arkham City is quite a bit different compared to the last game. Instead of a Metroidvania style of gameplay, we now have sort of a sandbox game where players have the freedom to do whatever they want to do. There's of course the main story missions to further the plot, but you can also do numerous side quests if you want to take a break from that sort of thing, like tracing Zsasz' phone calls, investigating Deadshot's victims to find his location, stopping the Mad Hatter, helping Bane destroy Titan containers, and of course the return of the Riddler, who's now showing his face rather than talking to Batman through an earpiece. The riddles are about the same as they were last time, like scanning the solution, shattering objects, and collecting lots of Riddler trophies, but you now also have to complete challenges from the Riddler which test your abilities, such as using gadgets in a certain way or how long you can fly without touching the ground. Completing a row of riddles will unlock small bonuses like concept art, character trophies, character biographies, and interview tapes between some of the villains and Hugo Strange, just in case you're interested in any of those things. There's a much bigger motivation to stopping the Riddler too, as he's got himself some hostages for you to rescue. And when you solve a certain number of riddles, he'll give you the location of one of them, and you have to complete a giant puzzle in order to save them. And once you've solved all of the riddles, you'll be able to track down the Riddler and finally take him down. This sounds like a very interesting side quest, but here's the catch. There's almost twice the amount of riddles to solve than in Arkham Asylum, more specifically, a total of 400. Finding the riddles is not as easy as last time thanks to larger environments, but you can thankfully interrogate the Riddler's informants for the locations of some of the riddles, and you can use detective mode to scan their positions in case you can't get them just yet. And getting most of the Riddler trophies requires a lot of puzzle solving this time, so if you're planning on completing this side quest, be prepared to spend a lot of time on it. Patience is a virtue with this one, and believe me, this side quest does have its share of boring moments. There is such a thing as too many collectibles, Rocksteady. Despite the open world nature of Arkham City, the core gameplay is still relatively the same as before. Something I forgot to mention in the Arkham Asylum review was that if you got your combo counter to more than 8, or 5 if you purchased the upgrade, you were able to perform special takedowns by pressing 2 of the adjacent face buttons at the same time. Each combo of face buttons pressed would let you do a specific special takedown, like throwing your opponents or breaking their arms. Asylum only had those 2 variations of special takedowns, but Arkham City now gives you 4 to choose from, at the expense of ditching the throw combo, but I never really found that useful anyway. Batman can still break arms, but now he can throw batarangs that knock down opponents, instantly making them unconscious. He can summon a swarm of bats to make opponents dizzy, and finally he can disarm an enemy and destroy their weapons. Batman can also now counter more than one enemy by pressing the counter button multiple times. And stunning an enemy is a lot more useful than last time, because you can now unleash multiple punches in rapid succession, which is required to beat goons wearing heavy armor. Stunning also needs to be used to take down enemies wielding riot shields who are annoying to deal with since they break your combos, but the disarming and instant takedown combos will give you a much easier time. As well as this, by pressing the stun button 3 times, Batman can perform the Ultra Stun that makes enemies fly onto the ground. But I hardly ever use this, punches work just fine for me. Speaking of enemies though, in addition to the new heavy armored and riot shield ones I just mentioned, the knife wielding enemies now have their own attacks that you need to dodge and counter, and we even have enemies that are able to jam detective mode, and you need to take them out in order to use it again. So there's overall a much better variety of enemies than there was in Arkham Asylum. But with new ways of fighting come new gadgets. First and foremost are the smoke pellets that Batman can use to escape a fight in case it's too much to handle, and can blind enemies when up close, allowing for easy takedowns before the smoke fades away. Then there's the disruptor, which disables 2 firearms when upgraded, and mines after completing a side quest before going through a lengthy recharge period. It's good for some humor when an enemy tries to shoot a jammed gun at you. There's also the freeze blasts, which are essentially projectiles that release a small portion of ice, allowing you to freeze enemies in place, stop steam coming out of pipes, and create frozen platforms in the water. Keeping with the ice theme, we also have freeze cluster grenades that temporarily traps enemies' feet in place. And lastly, there's the remote electric charge, pretty much acting like a gun that shoots out electricity and can shock enemies or temporarily give out positive or negative energy to running motors. Not really sure how Batman fits that in his utility belt though. It seems rather huge. Other than that, you can also equip the same gadgets as you could last time, like the Batarang, the explosive gel, the line launcher that can now be deployed as a tightrope with the appropriate upgrade, and the remote controlled Batarang, which no longer needs to be recharged to be reused. The grapple gun can also now be used in mid-air as well as multiple times in a row, and after completing the first few of the AR challenges as part of a side quest to test your skills, you'll obtain the grapnel accelerator that speeds you up when grappling onto a building or an object and automatically soars you over the top, keeping a consistent flow to your gliding. I thankfully didn't find myself using detective mode nearly as much as last time either, so abusers from before can actually see the effort Rocksteady put into the graphics, which is quite a sight to behold, I must say. It's a lot better than Arkham Asylum's in terms of detail and scale, and the mouth movements aren't anywhere near as atrocious as they were before. The only issue with them is that unless you're playing the PC version, you may encounter some slight frame rate drops, but it just kinda comes and goes. The music is also a bit catchier than Asylum's, which I find makes some video games a more enjoyable experience. When you're playing a game, I feel that you need some tunes to pump you up for the journey, and Arkham City has a few tracks that deliver that feeling. Imagine playing something like Castlevania without the music being so damn memorable. As brutally difficult as some of those games are, the music is there to soothe your pain if you fail again and again, and it makes you want to keep playing. The voice acting is still pretty good too, with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill reprising their roles as Batman and the Joker, but strangely no Arlene Sorkin as Harley Quinn. Instead, she's now voiced by Tara Strong. But I actually think she suits the role better than Sorkin did. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy her performance in Arkham Asylum, but to me, Strong's higher-pitched voice suits Harley's character a little bit more, and I'm glad she was chosen to voice her. Nolan North's take on the Penguin, however, is downright atrocious. For whatever reason, the Penguin in the Arkham games has a very thick Cockney accent, and it seems that Mr. North went to the Dick Van Dyke School of English Accents. Well, okay, he's not that bad at it, but it's pretty appalling to say the least, and is definitely the worst performance in the game. It's a shame too, because I know Nolan North can do good stuff, but this is not his best work.
Having a little lie down, are ya? Enjoy it. It's your last.
This is where I would talk about the boss fights, but like in my Arkham Asylum review, I'll need to go a little more into the story first. Batman does manage to locate Mr. Freeze, but he tells him that he has to obtain a device from his suit to stop the Penguin from using his ice gun. And after delightfully beating the hell out of the Penguin, Mr. Freeze is back in his suit and informs Batman that he needs a restorative element to complete the cure, which gives Batman the idea of using the blood of Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul, however you want to pronounce it. Very conveniently, one of Ra's ninja assassins is there in the same room and cuts herself while escaping her cell, giving us a blood trail to Mr. Al Ghul. Oh, hi Robin, good to see you. Oh, Batman's ordering you to go back to Gotham? Sure, why not? It's not like what's going on in Arkham City is top priority or anything. Okie dokie then. Before we can get to Ra's, we have to pass some trials which are led by Talia al Ghul, Ra's daughter. I have no idea what the hell I'm seeing when doing these tests, but after that little LSD trip, Batman comes head to toe with Ra's al Ghul and injects his blood, allowing Mr. Freeze to complete the cure. But Mr. Freeze decides that he wants to be a dick and crushes one of the 2 vials he made and orders Batman to search for his wife in Arkham City. However, Batman decides to be a douchebag himself and just take the cure, leaving the wife-searching business as a side quest. Mr. Freeze obviously doesn't take this kindly and starts attacking the Caped Crusader. Now as for Arkham City's boss battles, they are a million times better than they were in Arkham Asylum. Almost every one of them are unique in their own way and leads to an overall much better experience. Penguin only goes down with 1 tiger uppercut when you reach him, but once he unleashes Solomon Grundy afterwards, that's where the real fight begins. Lowering his health isn't so much of an issue, but his attacks can reach quite a far distance. And like I mentioned earlier, it's extremely satisfying to beat the crap out of the Penguin after you defeat Grundy. Ra's al Ghul is quite intense to fight as well. This is something Scarecrow should have done in the last game instead of just staring at Batman. And of course there's the battle against Mr. Freeze, which has become known as one of the best boss fights in recent video game history. This is everything the Arkham series is known for, all in one epic fight. You have to use stealth to defeat Mr. Freeze because of his powerful ice gun, but there are still many ways to take him down. And each time a bit of his health is lost, he'll remember that you used that tactic and not let you do that again. Why can't more bosses in video games be this smart? This battle reminds me a lot of the Metal Gear Solid games, specifically the Vulcan Raven fight. Come to think of it, the Vulcan Raven fight also took place in a frozen environment. I wonder if there's some sort of connection. Unfortunately, only the story bosses are what I would classify as true boss fights. The side quest variety, on the other hand, like Deadshot and Zsasz, all go down with 1 takedown. They each have a different way of approaching them, but it only takes 1 press of a button to defeat them. These kind of battles are honestly pretty pathetic. Even the Riddler's insultingly easy to beat, considering how much time and effort you have to put in to find him. Though admittedly I do find him walking around non-stop to be pretty sweet revenge. Some of the bosses don't even have a fight at all, like Bane, who predictably betrays you and is defeated by a thin metal gate that honestly looks like he could easily break. The same goes for Hush, who you find after solving a mystery and manages to escape from Batman's grasp. What the hell, why nab us the opportunity to beat these guys ourselves after all the work we put into these side quests? Those few so-called battles aside, the boss fights overall are way more fun and a lot more satisfying than last time. And it's good that Rocksteady's listening to the fans and thinking of how to improve the gameplay. I guess the last thing to discuss about the gameplay is the DLC, so let's start with the one that got the most promotion when this game was announced, the ability to play as Catwoman. I always found the decision to make her DLC odd, even before the game was released. I would have thought that since she was one of the main attractions to Arkham City, they ought to have included her in the game, but no, you have to buy her. Well, you got a free code to download Catwoman if you pre-ordered the game back in 2011, which I'm assuming hardly anyone has at this point, so unless you're looking on eBay, you're gonna have to shell out some money to play as her. That's just bizarre. Even then, while I do enjoy playing as Catwoman a lot since she's faster and more flexible than Batman with fewer gadgets to compensate, in terms of her role in the story, she barely does anything in this game. She has sort of a side story of her own where at the beginning of the game she needs Poison Ivy's help with something, she never really says. But whatever it is, Ivy doesn't agree unless Catwoman retrieves her stolen rare plant that Hugo Strange has locked in his vault. And FYI, Poison Ivy tells her this near the end of the freaking game, when Protocol 10 is just minutes away from starting. The hell happened between that time? Was Poison Ivy just refusing to talk to her for ages, or did they just sit there in silence for several hours? And yeah, this plot point never brought up again, like, at all. You do come across the plant when you get to the vault, but Catwoman just smashes and ignores it, takes whatever's in these briefcases, I'm assuming it's money, but immediately leaves it to help Batman. There was no point whatsoever in sneaking inside this damn vault. But moving past that, the only other thing I don't like about playing as Catwoman is that when she has to climb buildings, you have to time your button pressings with each step of your climb if you want to get to the top faster. Needless to say, this is nowhere near as fun as gliding on rooftops. Catwoman also has her own set of Riddler trophies, 40 in total, which don't really do anything aside from getting an achievement or a trophy. But even though that's an extra 40 riddles you have the option of completing, they count towards the 400 riddles you need to locate the Riddler. So that should hopefully make the side quest a little easier. I also don't get why Catwoman is able to collect Batman's trophies, but Batman isn't allowed to pick up her trophies. I suppose that's nitpicking now. This other bit of DLC is a bit minor compared to Catwoman, but there are also alternate costumes to wear, with my favorites being the animated series outfit, the Sinestro Corps suit, and the Batman Beyond attire, though I'm not sure how those tiny wings of his are holding him up. I also like the 1970s Batman suit, but mainly because it's the closest we'll get to play as Adam West Batman. Catwoman also has her animated series outfit available, as well as her long Halloween outfit. Oh, that is not attractive. I mean, oh god, this is painful to look at. Why is her butt sticking out so much? What's with that creepy mask? Just, what the hell is this? Alright, that seems to be everything. Story time, boys and girls. While Batman and Mr. Freeze were rumbling and tumbling, Harley Quinn managed to steal the last cure vial and take it to the Joker, where he immediately becomes healthy again. Wow, that cure is fast. And it seems Joker's feeling so refreshed that he's actually engaging himself in a fistfight with the Dark Knight. He's not anything special, he pretty much acts like any average goon you fight in this game. Well, after that one-sided bit of fisticuffs, a pile of rubble falls on top of Batman as Talia comes in to offer the Joker a trade. Batman for immortality from the Lazarus pit that Ra's al Ghul uses to add more years into his lifespan. Catwoman arrives to rescue Batman after leaving her stolen goods, and they both now realize what Protocol 10 is now that Hugo Strange has activated it. Protocol 10 basically turns out to be a missile barrage planned to destroy Arkham City while the Tiger Guard shoot down the inmates. Quite a bloodbath even for Batman standards, but anyway, Batman heads off to take care of Strange, who's found in the Wonder Tower, which is the highest point of Arkham City and is quite a fun and thrilling climb. Once Batman deals with the last of the Tiger Guards, unless you choose to revisit the Wonder Tower, he disables Protocol 10 and does us the honor of beating up Hugo Strange for being forgotten in the first two-thirds of the story. But Strange is then suddenly stabbed by Ra's al Ghul, who's revealed to be the true mastermind behind Arkham City, and that Strange was only a mere pawn. With his dying breath, Strange decides to activate Protocol 11, which causes the Wonder Tower to self-destruct, with Batman and Ra's just barely evading the explosion. But Ra's ends up killing himself anyway, so it doesn't matter for him. As if there weren't enough problems to deal with, the Joker hacks a monitor to threaten Batman that he'll kill Talia if he doesn't meet him in the movie theater. Batman makes it just in time, and the Joker demands the cure that he's already got, but Talia breaks free of his grip and uses her sword to pierce through the Joker's body. Talia notifies Batman that she took the cure from Harley sometime off screen and is afterwards shot in the back by the original Joker, who now looks way worse than he did earlier. Joker unveils the truth that the healthy version of himself was not in fact the Joker at all, but rather Clayface, substituting as the final boss for this game while the Joker is barely able to keep himself steady. Like with the other story bosses, Clayface is a far more threatening final boss than the Joker in Arkham Asylum, and he's actually a fairly decent challenge too. Not too hard, but not too easy. After Joker blows up the theater floor and sends the two down to the Lazarus pit, Batman rips apart Clayface with Talia's sword, drinks half of the cure, and uses the sword to destroy the pit just before the Joker begins to step in. The resulting explosion temporarily knocks them out, but when they wake up again, Joker idiotically stabs Batman's shoulder, causing him to drop the vial and smash it into tiny pieces as the cure is spilled all over the floor. The Joker starts to seriously panic while Batman explains to him that even after everything he's done in this game, he would have chosen to save him. Too bad you had to stab him there, Joker buddy. The Joker falls to the floor and laughs his last laugh before the disease kills him completely. And man, is this a powerful scene, it still gives me the shivers. Batman carries the Joker's body to the GCPD without saying a single word while everybody watches in shock and awe. The credits roll, it's very quiet, and the Joker sends one final voicemail of him singing Only You by the Platters, which is incredibly spine-tingling and sad. But the game's not over yet if you got the Catwoman DLC, where all she has left to do in Arkham City is collect her things in her apartment, but Two-Face blows it up as she steps in, so she's out for revenge to beat the living snot out of him and take her loot back from his henchmen. So yeah, sorry Catwoman, but you've got some pretty pointless side stories. Aren't you guys glad you bought this DLC when it was first released? So we discussed a couple of the DLC earlier, but what we haven't touched yet is a story pack that came some months after Arkham City came out called Harley Quinn's Revenge. As you can tell by the name, this takes place after the game's main story, where a mourning Harley Quinn has taken a few cops hostage and captures Batman when he tries to rescue them. So it's up to Robin to get him back so the two of them can save the hostages and stop Harley. It is neat that this DLC lets us play as Robin for the first time in the Arkham series, and while he's not as fast as Catwoman, his pole gives him fairly good attack range, and he has a decent number of gadgets that fit with his character. Now how come Batman hasn't thought of using a bullet shield and Robin has? That would make these games a tad bit easier. Harley Quinn's Revenge is certainly better than the Catwoman DLC, but I do have a couple of major problems with it. Well, first of all, for someone who's trying to avenge the death of her boyfriend, this is a really lame revenge plot. Capturing Batman and a few cops and planting 3 bombs in one building? Come on, Harley, we know you're better than this, up your A-game a little. In fact, after watching the ending when I first played Arkham City, I actually thought that Harley was going to be the main villain in the next game. It would have made a lot of sense, wouldn't it? She'd be motivated to destroy Gotham for believing to have taken the Joker away from her. But no, she's been reduced to DLC that honestly, like the inclusion of Catwoman, doesn't really add much to the story. Like I said, I really enjoy playing as Robin, and it is gratifying to pummel Harley when you reach her. Not exactly sure if that's okay to say or not, but if I had the option to choose this or the Catwoman DLC, I'd hands down go with Harley Quinn's Revenge. It at least tries to tie in with the main story, and I think it's better because of it, despite once again not having much purpose in existing and shattering my hopes of Harley being the main villain in Arkham Knight. One last thing to talk about is the return of Challenge Mode, now called Riddler's Revenge, where this time you can also earn tokens by completing certain tasks in the map. You can play as all of the characters that are in the main game, including Batman, Catwoman, Robin, and also Nightwing, who has his own animated outfit, as well as Robin in addition to the Red Robin suit. Riddler's Revenge is pretty much the same as Challenge Mode was in Arkham Asylum. Just obtain as many points as you can in combat situations and be as quick and stealthy as possible. But you can also now add modifiers to make the experience a little more interesting, like a shield on one of the enemies, a time limit, or your health slowly deteriorating. It's amazing how much of an improvement Batman Arkham City is over Asylum. The combat feels better than before, the sandbox style is a nice change while still having that Arkham feel to it. Catwoman, while a pointless inclusion to the main story, is great to play as, and the game has enough content to please fans of Batman and players who want a lot of meat in their game. There is also a Wii U version of this game called Arkham City Armored Edition that's exactly like the Game of the Year edition, but as far as I know, there's a bit more frame rate dropping than in the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions, and the graphics aren't as polished or detailed as those ports. Look at how shiny Batman's suit is. There's also the BAT system included from Arkham Origins, where all it takes to knock down any thug is one giant punch. How are their faces not broken at this point? Whatever version you get of Arkham City, you're guaranteed to have a wonderful time being the Batman and laying the smackdown on your foes. It's not one of my favorite games of all time, but damn is it a good one. What's weird is that when I first played through Arkham Asylum and City, I used to think Asylum was a better game. But after playing them again back to back, I can see the thought and care that's been put into making a superior sequel. And like Arkham Asylum, if you haven't played it yet, sort it out, because chances are we're not going to get another superhero game this well crafted. So Rocksteady has knocked it out of the park for a second time and then some, but what could they do next to up the ante? Well, we weren't going to find out for another 4 years, but in the meantime, another studio gave us a prequel to look forward to titled Batman Arkham Origins. See you all next time for part 3 of the marathon, and I hope you enjoy it.